Hi everyone, this is Tom, and welcome to this video, which is where I'm going to go through my full productivity system to show you how I've been productive over the years. And I've been fairly productive over the past, say, 15, 20 years, achieving a lot of my goals. So as you might know, I work as a GP. So I got into medical school, went through medical school, completed my foundation training, then did my GP training and qualified as a GP in 2020. During that time, I obviously sat a bunch of exams. I also did a degree in psychology and a master's degree in medical education. I've done a bunch of postgraduate diplomas. So I did a diploma in child health. I did a diploma from the MRCP diploma, which is from the Royal College of Physicians. And I did a diploma from the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. So I've got kind of specialist diplomas in a bunch of things on top of GP training. I also became a fellow of the Higher Education Academy to kind of show that I'm reasonable at teaching. And then on top of that, I built Zero to Finals, which involved writing 7 massive textbooks like this, or massive books, which I've published, and doing a full course, a full revision course, which I put together all the material for and organized and put on. I built a YouTube channel, which for Zero to Finals, which has almost 1 million subscribers now. I put out over 700 podcasts for Zero to Finals. So I've done quite a bunch of stuff. On top of that, I've got a family. I'm happily married, a great relationship, and 2 kids. And then on top of that, I've done a bunch of traveling. I've been to various parts of Asia, Australia, New Zealand, America, all over Europe. So fair bit of traveling. So I've been fairly productive over the course of my life. And in this video, I want to share with you how to be insanely productive. All the things that I've learned, my system that I've learned over the years for like getting stuff done, achieving your goals. So here's a target: how to be insanely productive. That's what this video is about. So first, before we can kind of go into any strategies, we need to define productivity. So I'm going to define it as productivity equals how fast you progress towards your goals. So how quickly do you make progress from where you are now to the goals that you want to achieve, the life that you want to achieve? So let's define your goals. Your goals are basically what you want from life. Everybody wants something different from life, but people do want to have, to get certain things from life. So whether that's in, let's say, your career, and if you're, say, pursuing a career in something like engineering, medicine, accountancy, law, whatever it is, you're going to need to learn a bunch of stuff. And so learning will be part of the goal. You'll have exams to pass, qualifications to get. You'll need to develop skills. So you'll have lots of kind of goals and things you need to achieve along the course of your career in order to progress your career. Then you'll kind of have hobbies. So for example, you may have sort of fitness goals, or you may have goals in terms of any kind of activity, getting better at playing chess, whatever the kind of skill set that you need for your hobbies is. Then you'll have sort of financial goals, to be kind of financially secure and stable so that you don't worry as much about money. Then you'll have other goals like your health, other goals like building a community. So like your friends, family, all that kind of stuff. And all of this is like important. So these are all the goals, and productivity is how quickly do you progress towards these goals. So you could have a career and learning that you need to do for your career, but you progress really slowly and it takes you 10 years, whereas you could have achieved it in 6 months. So that's productivity. Now, just to make it really simple, here is you. So you're here now, and then here's your goals. And these are when the goals are complete. And what happens is you do an input. So you input time, energy, effort, all the stuff that you do. And from your input, you get an output. So you get output is your progress towards your goals. So then you put more input, right? And then you get more output. So the output from your efforts is your progression towards your goals. So let's say your goal is to become a doctor. You've got to get through medical school exams. Your exam is in 3 months. Your input is sitting down to study a topic. And then the output is how much you learn about that topic and how much you retain that will help you overcome the goal of passing the exam. So they're inputs and outputs. Now, the formula for productivity, so that was the definition of productivity, but the formula, there's actually a formula which is well established. And the formula is output, meaning this is the progress towards your goals. So you could measure this as, say, if you sit down and you learn something, or you pass an exam, or you earn money, or you lose weight. The output is the progress you make towards your goals. So there's you now. Input is the effort you put in, and then the output is the progress you make towards your goals. And the formula for productivity is output divided by input. And then input is what you put in or what you do. So how much, so this could be time, energy, money, whatever the resources are that you're expending, that's the input. And then the output is the progress that you make towards your goals. So that's productivity. So the question is then, if that's the formula, how do you increase productivity? Well, there's a simple answer to this. We know the answer to this. The answer is that you increase the output and you decrease the input. So you become more efficient. You do less stuff and you get more output for it. This is how you increase your productivity. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we have a productivity, let's say just to explain this concept, let's say your output, you have sort of like 1 unit of output, so 1 hour of work, and you get 1 unit, and you have 1 unit of input, so you do 1 hour of work or 1 hour of effort, and you get 1 unit of output. This means your productivity is 1. Whereas if you do, say, 2 inputs, so 2 hours of work, and you get 4 units of output, that means your productivity is 2. So this is the more productive scenario. So you want less input and more output. And that's how you get more productivity. Here's a really important reason for having this formula and demonstrating this. Being busy is not the same as being productive. In fact, you might be able to think of people in your life or even yourself and note that often the busiest people who are just unable to do anything, you say, can you do this thing? And they're just too busy. They're often, when you look at their progress towards goals, not so productive. Being busy is not the same as being productive. And actually, some productive people are really not busy. And so really, it comes down to being selective about how you spend your time and energy and using that time and energy as efficiently as possible to get the most output. So let's go through my system. Step 1. This is my productivity system. Step 1 is to define your goals. And this is the most important first step. So if you're trying to be productive and you don't define your goals and you don't know what you're aiming for and you don't know what you want out of life, you don't know what you're working towards, you can't really be productive. The modern world is such that you can fill your entire day, you can fill every minute of your time and not make any progress towards any goals, just basically stay where you are. The world is such that, you could scroll on social media, read the news, get sidetracked by other people's agendas, be busy doing sort of life admin tasks, cleaning, cooking. You can just fill every second of your day, for the 16 hours or so that you're awake and not make any progress towards any goals. So in order to make progress, the first step is you need to have an idea of what you're working towards. What is it you want to achieve? What are you being productive for? So the first thing is define your goals. Number 1, these are personal to you. It's important that you define your own goals and not have just borrow somebody else's goals. The things that will be a top priority for you may be completely non-priority for me and vice versa. Like one of my goals at the minute is build this, create videos for this YouTube channel. And that might be of no interest to you whatsoever. And one of your goals might be to study for an exam. And I don't have any exams coming up, so it's not a goal for me. Or your goal may be to build a community, build a network of people, and build friendships and everything. Whereas at the moment, that's not a top priority for me. I've kind of got my friendship group. It's nice to expand it, but it's not my, top of the goal tree for me. So these are personal to you. It could be to do with your career path. We're all at different stages of our career paths. And there's people who are much further on in their career than me. There's people who you may be 10 years behind in medical school, whatever it is. But your goals will be appropriate for your career path, also your personal life. And here's something, you might not be sure. So point number 2 here is, if you're not sure about your goals, and you may think, well, this is great, but I don't really know what goals to set myself. I want to be productive. I want to achieve things. I want to, develop myself in some way, but I'm not really sure where to put my energy. I'm not really sure what goal to choose. My advice to you here is pick something. And I think one of the problems is that people get so caught up on picking the right goal that they don't choose anything and then they don't do anything. Actually, you're better off with a goal, even if it's the wrong goal, and pursuing something rather than never quite committing to anything and just flipping between goals and not really sure, and a new goal every 2 days, and never committing to something. The reason to pick a goal is that it gives you something to work towards, and then what you'll find is that you'll learn what you want along the way. So the process of pursuing a goal and being productive will show you what you want. So let's say the goal that you should be pursuing will reveal itself during the time where you're pursuing a different goal. So pick something. For example, what happens when I finish a book or a finished set of flashcards or something like that is I'll pick a goal like making YouTube videos or focusing on some other project. And then as I'm working towards that, an idea will come out of that process that forms the next big project. So when I finished one of the books, I think it was a surgery book, at that point I was kind of focusing on YouTube, focused on sort of sorting out some other admin areas. And then I kind of developed the idea for the flashcards out of creating illustrations, and the process of going through a different goal revealed this new goal. So pick something, stick with it long enough, and not only will you become more productive by practicing that thing, but also new goals will reveal themselves. So it doesn't matter, don't get caught up on picking which goal is right for you and finding the perfect goal. Pick something that's okay, you're happy with, and go with it. Pick something that will be fun. You want something that kind of appeals to you because it's fun. And when you pick something, it will build your confidence. So as you go through the process of pursuing a goal, you'll realize you're making progress and becoming productive, and that'll build your confidence that then allows you to pick a kind of bigger, more ambitious goal in the future. So number 3 is you want something that's the appropriate challenge or difficulty. Okay, so you'll have a sort of a spectrum of how difficult it could be. So if it's too easy, if you pick a goal that's too easy and you can do it in half an hour and it doesn't really kind of push you, this is going to be boring and you're not going to learn. So this is kind of your comfort zone. If it's too easy and you've done it 100 times before and it's not going to push your abilities and you're not going to learn anything, this is not a good goal. And if it's too hard, like you just have no idea where to start, you just don't have the current skill set to be able to do it, you're just going to fail at this goal. So what you want is something in between, where it's stimulating and you learn from it. So this is kind of out of your comfort zone, but within range of what you're capable of at the moment. So this is the kind of just right level of challenge for your goal. Okay, now there's another aspect to picking goals. It can be output based or outcome based. Outcome based is kind of like the traditional way of setting goals. So this is something like lose weight, pass an exam, publish a book, like finish the book, get it done and published. So this is kind of an outcome. And these are traditionally these SMART goals that people talk about, where it's kind of measurable, achievable, and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with those goals. I have goals which are, to lose weight and outcome based. And then there's output based goals, which is like make a daily video or study 2 topics. And output-based goals, where your output, you're trying to do a certain thing a number of times a day or a week or whatever it is. Output-based goals have some advantages over outcome-based goals, because output-based goals are indefinite, or they don't necessarily need to be indefinite, but you say, I'm going to make this many things, do this many study sessions per week, 3 workouts per week, 2 runs per week, 2 climbing sessions per week, make a daily video, whatever that output is from you. And then as you go through the process, you can constantly adjust and adapt or iterate on each one. So for example, if I set myself the goal of a daily video, each video I can make slightly differently, change something, make it slightly better. And it's not so much based on outcomes. I'm not aiming for so many subscribers or so many views or whatever it is. I'm just aiming for what I can control, which is make a video and just keep doing that and see where it goes. Whereas outcome-based is very sort of definite. This is what I want to achieve. Both of these are valid, but it's worth keeping in mind the differences between these 2 ones. And then number 5 is you want to define how you track your action. This is important. How do you track your action? How do you track what you do to make progress towards the goal? So the things that the idea of this is it's to make you take action. So when you've got a goal and you're trying to make progress towards that goal and be productive, you need to take action. If you don't take any action, you won't make any progress towards the goal. You need to put the input in to get the output, which is progress towards the goal. And I think it's very worthwhile tracking the action that you do. And we'll talk about that now. So this could be, you kind of have your goal, you've got an idea of how you're going to get there, but this is defining the action you need to take to get there and how you're going to track it. So let's say it's to get stronger and you're going to increase how much weight you can lift. You track your gym workouts. So you would make a note every time you do a gym workout, how much weight you lift and so on. It could be your study sessions. And if you watch my video on tracking, you'll see how I track my study sessions to show, when I'm doing a study session and the outcome of the study session in terms of exam scores and so on. Then it could be videos uploaded. So with my YouTube goal, if I want to create YouTube videos, 1 YouTube video a day, I'd be tracking, I've done the YouTube video today, done it today, and so on. Let's say you're trying to build up a savings account, you want to make some money and build up some savings. It could be how many shifts you work. So you're tracking the action. And by tracking the action, I'll talk about how I'm going to do it in a second, how you're actually going to track it. But by tracking it, you kind of get that positive enforcement of, I did the thing that I need to do to make progress. If you're not tracking your action, you kind of don't really know how hard you're working. And you don't really know, let's say you need to do so many hours of work towards, in order to progress towards a goal, and you're not tracking how many hours you're working, you don't know when you look back whether your number of hours that you've worked is increasing over time, or whether you're just kind of not doing as much work as you thought you were. You're busy all week, you get to the end of the week and you think, I've done so much this week, but you've not tracked it, and you don't realize actually you've only done like 40 minutes of studying. And then number 5, along the same line, number 6 is define how you track your progress. And progress and action is different. Action is your inputs. Progress is your outputs. Outputs in terms of progression towards the goal. So this is how much progress you're making. So number 5, when you're tracking your action, is how much action you're taking. Number 6 is how much progress you're making. And you want to know both, really. So this could be how much you lift in the gym if you're trying to get stronger. It could be your body weight if you're trying to lose weight. It could be your practice test scores. So if you're trying to prepare for an exam in medical school, you want to track the practice test scores that you're doing to see that those scores are increasing over time. You're making progress towards your exams. If you want to get 90% on your medical school exam on the exam day, you want to see that your practice test scores are making progress towards that 90% goal. So you're doing a practice session on cardiology today, and you do a practice exam and you score 50%. When you do cardiology again in, say, 2 weeks' time, you want to do another practice test and see that you're scoring 70%. So you're making progress towards your ultimate goal of, say, 80% on that exam. So this could be, for me, say with YouTube, it could be number of subscribers, or it could be your money saved. So if you're trying to save money, your action would be to take on how many shifts you're working, and then the progress would be how much money you've saved. So that brings us on to step 2, which is create a tracking system. And you probably, if you're familiar with my videos already, you'll see that I'm kind of obsessed with tracking lots of things. And you want to create a tracking system for whatever goal you're trying to progress towards. So the first thing you want to do is track action. So you're trying to track the actions that you're taking. So you can have a look at my weekly review videos. So it would be every Monday, but every Sunday I make a video. So they're published every Monday, but on Sundays I make a video where I track my progress towards my goals and my action towards my goals. Go and take a look at those videos. I've also got a video on tracking for studying that you can see on my channel. And then you can look at the weight training video on the channel for how I track my sort of fitness goals in terms of weight training. But what you're doing here is you're tracking action. So you're tracking you're logging whenever you do a study session, or you're logging whenever you do a workout, or you're logging whenever you do any kind of action like a climbing session, whatever it is you're trying to take, you're tracking the action that you put in. So this is your inputs. And a great way I found is to use an app called Forest. And this has really changed my productivity massively. This is the only app. I'm not sponsored. It's not a paid sponsorship or anything. This is because this is just the only app that's really made a huge difference to my own productivity. And what you do is you track your deep hours of work towards your goal. So if I'm writing a book, I'll set a timer on the app for an hour or an hour and a half. And that's an hour and a half where I just dedicate to writing the book. And that then records that over time, and I can see how many hours I've put in, which allows me to go back and say, okay, this week was good. I wonder why it was a good week, or this week was bad. It was probably a bad week because all these other things got in the way, and there's something I need to review about this. So track the action you're taking towards your goals to make sure that you are taking action, and you can adjust things to, if you're not taking action, you can adjust things in your life to make sure you are taking action. And the second thing is to track outcomes. So this could be like your body weight, if you're trying to lose weight. Could be for these videos, subscribers. If you're trying to study, it could be the MCQ scores. So to just give you a very quick demo, a very obvious sort of demo, if I'm trying to study for medical exams, say, or any kind of exams, just create a table like this. So you've got a topic. This is review 1, review 2, 3, and 4. And then you've got your topic, say, cardiology. Then you've got gastro. And you've got endocrine, like this. And then when you study cardiology, put the date in there. So 2nd of, say, March 25. So that's reviewing your action. You studied cardiology on that day. And then you track your outcomes. So let's say you scored 80% on the MCQs. You put the 80% there. So you're recording your action. You studied it on that day. And the outcomes, which is you scored 80% on the practice tests. And this is really simple. Then when you come to study cardiology again in say, a couple of weeks, you'd record another study session. And this time you scored 90%. And when you do gastro, you record that, and that's a 40%. And this way you can see when you studied them, so you're recording your action and the outcomes. And that helps you keep track of your progress towards your goals. Step 3. Is block time and space to take action. So this is really important. If you just wake up in the morning and approach the day with an open mind and just say, I'll do what I feel like today. Firstly, you won't feel like getting started on your goals. Second thing is, a lot of this takes work, and it's challenging and it's hard, and you will naturally take the path of least resistance. So if something kind of comes up, or there's some idea, or someone says, do you want to grab coffee instead of doing your thing, or whatever it is, your brain will be attracted to that, and you probably won't take any action towards your goals. You really need to block time and space to force yourself to do stuff, or to at least get started. Often once you get started, everything flows from there and it's not too bad. But the hard bit is kind of that avoiding all the things in life that will try and grab your attention and take you away from the progress you're trying to make. So there's some key points here. One is to identify your peak time. So for me, this is kind of like the time of day where you have the most energy, the most focus, the most discipline, and you can get the best work done. This will vary for everybody. For me, for example, this is from like 6 a.m. until say 11 a.m. This is my optimal time for getting high quality work done. This is when I really want to be doing the hardest activities. So that's step number 2, is assign the hardest or most challenging or most valuable activity to your peak time. So what I would say here is you're going to be able to identify the task you need to do towards your goal, whether that's lifting weights, going for a long run, studying a really hard topic, writing a book, making a video, whatever it is. And you're going to have a peak time of day, which is like 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. for me. So you want to put those two together. You want to really block off that time so it's not wasted doing other stuff. For me, it makes no sense to spend 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. like doing washing up or answering emails or doing something that's low value and easy to do. Because then I get through that and then say 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm at my biggest dip, my worst time of the day, I don't want to be using that time of day or trying to motivate myself during that time of day to write books or do something that's really, really challenging. So put the hardest activity or the most valuable activity in your peak time and reserve that time. Don't use it for other things. Really protect that time. I think it's very important. And the thing is, not all periods of the day are equally valuable. So for me, like 2 p.m. till say 4 p.m. is not a particularly valuable time of day in terms of making progress towards my goals. So I give myself a break. I'm like, I know I'm not going to make much progress during that time. That's okay. As long as I use my peak time to make progress and I don't waste it. And then number 3, assign a dedicated place. For your somewhere with no distractions. So you want to do some kind of hard activity. You want to make some progress towards your goals. You've isolated some time, but the problem is if I stay at home and I'm kind of in my house, I've just finished having some breakfast, I'm sat at my kitchen table, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to do some really hard work at this point. There's 100 different distractions. So all around me, there'll be some washing up, some washing to do, some tidying, kids to play with, some other million different distractions. And so I'll never get that work done. Whereas I found for me, if I go to a coffee shop, it's a brand new place, there's no distractions, I'm not lonely because there's people around, and there I can really get some deep work done and really focus. So having that dedicated place away from my normal routine helps a lot. Alternatively, I could go to my garage. There's kind of a bit of a desk setup in there. Or, if I'm going to do a workout, I'll go in there. Or I've got this office. When I was a medical student, it would be the library. When I was a GP trainee, it would be the doctor's mess in a particular room with a computer in it, or the university or the hospital library. I'll always find a place where it's a dedicated place where I can go to get the work done. And that helps me get the stuff done. Okay, which brings us on to step 4. Oops. Carry out repeated action, tracking your progress. So we've defined our goals, we've set up a kind of tracking system, and now we just need to carry out that action. And this is kind of easier said than done, but let's go through it step by step. So you want to take action in your time and place. So you've allocated this time and place for your hardest tasks. For me, that's like 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. in a coffee shop. That's when I get the hardest stuff done. If I do that every day, that will compound over time, and I'll have at the end of it a massive amount of work to show for it, a massive amount of outputs. But I need to take action. If I don't take action and I don't do that thing, it won't get done. I won't make any progress. So you've isolated this time and place, go there and actually do the thing. Second thing is record your action and your outputs. And then the third thing is do this over and over. I think this is probably not kind of mentioned in a lot of productivity circles where people are talking about how to get stuff done. But ultimately, you're going to have to just do, if you want to achieve something big, say writing a book or building a YouTube channel or studying towards your exams or getting in good shape, dieting, getting stronger, whatever thing you're trying to achieve, you're going to have to do this thing over and over again. Olympic athletes, if you're an Olympic swimmer, these guys will just do length after length after length, day after day after day for years. And I think this is not sort of mentioned enough. There's kind of this idea that you become inspired by a motivational video and it kind of taps into your emotions, and at the end of it, through all the fancy editing and everything, you kind of get up and you go and do the thing. But the thing is, even if you sit down and you were to blast through it for like 6 hours, the problem with that is 6 hours is not really enough to make meaningful progress towards big goals. You need to do day after day after day over and over and over again, and keep doing that for a long time. And we'll come on to it in a second, but yeah, that can get tiresome and boring, and there's some ways around that. And then number 4 is to observe your progress. And so let's say this is day 1. You could think of this like building a brick wall. When you first, day 1 is like you put down that first brick for the wall. And so for me with this YouTube channel, day 1 was that first video of the daily videos, which I think was defining my 0 to finals goals, where I defined my goals and made a video, and that was day 1. That video on its own, I don't know, when I first published it was like 10 views. Nobody really watched it. And so after one day, you don't really see much progress, however much effort you put into that one day. And then day 2, you put down the second brick. And then day 3, you've got 3 bricks. And very, very slowly, this wall starts to take shape. And then you get to day 50 and you have almost a finished wall to look back on, and you've made progress. When I did this book, it was like a 9-month process. I think there's something like 160 chapters, and each chapter, some of the chapters took me multiple days. So making a chapter, I couldn't just sit down and blast out this book in one day. It's just impossible. There's just got to be a process of doing this one day after another, after another, after another, and just doing that for a long, long time and staying on track. Which brings us on to step 5. Oops. Which is avoid distractions. These are things that will kind of put you off course. So you're trying to build this wall, you're trying to do one step at a time and build something amazing, build towards your goals, make progress, be productive. But there's all sorts of distractions. There's this kind of to-do list. So this is stuff that just comes up in life and tries to get you off course. So these are things like cleaning the house, like washing, really boring stuff, buying clothes, like haircut, like paperwork, emails. So this is all the stuff that life just throws at you that you have to do. And one way you remember this formula is for productivity is output divided by input. And we want to minimize the input. But if you're doing all of these kind of distracting things, what you're doing is increasing your input and decreasing your output. So we want to minimize these. What I would say about these are they have to be done. There's a lot of things in life that needs to be done, but sometimes you might need to let other things slip a little bit. I'll give you an example. When you've got 2 kids, your house is always messy. If you've got somebody who's got a clean house and they've got 2 kids, then they either have like a live-in cleaner or somebody who does it for them, or they just don't get anything else done. So I once was getting frustrated with this, and I thought, I'm going to keep on top of the house today. And I literally spent the entire day cleaning, because as fast as you can make it clean, kids can make it unclean the same speed or greater, which means it's like a constant treadmill where you're running at your maximum pace. So the only way you can kind of avoid this to-do list taking up 100% of your time is that you do let some things slip in order to pursue your goals. Nothing's all perfect. And you put things into batches. So instead of cleaning all day long throughout the day, wait till the kids go to bed and then clear things up as best you can. Paperwork, emails, instead of always having my computer on, always having my iPhone switched on with messages, and anytime anything comes through, I immediately reply. I put everything on silent, cut everything out, and then do batches where I'll sit down and blast through the emails, blast through the paperwork, accepting that I'm not going to reply to things within 10 seconds, but I will get to them within a day or two. And that's in order to make sure I'm really focused on the goals that matter the most, not getting sidetracked with distractions. The other distraction is shiny new goals. So when you have a challenging goal, say your goal is to make videos all the time, and you've got to put out a video every day, after a while that becomes quite challenging. And you might wake up and think, I just don't want to do that today. Or say you're studying, you just think, I don't want to study today. Or you're writing a book, I don't want to study, I don't want to write a book. And you did set yourself this goal a month ago. And a month ago you were like, this is definitely the thing I want to do. I really want to get this finished. I want to achieve this goal. But when you're a month in and the goal is no longer so shiny and exciting, your attention might be grabbed by some other goal. So instead of now writing a book, I think, I don't want to write a book. I want to make some new flashcards, or I want to make a different type of YouTube video. Instead of sticking to one video a day with this YouTube channel, I might be like, actually, that's not great. Maybe I want to go and do public speaking instead and focus on that goal. But shiny new goals have a way of trying to take you away from your current goals. And the problem with that is that you never get to the point of actually achieving the goal or making any meaningful progress. Another one is other people's agenda. And this is not to have a go at other people, in the sense of other people will put things onto your agenda and fill your time, which is fine, but you need to be very cautious. If you're trying to be productive and achieve your goals, try not to get sidetracked by too many things that are not important to you. So, for example, like social events, say you're on a health kick, you're trying to lose weight, gain strength, get into good shape, and that involves like going for runs every morning. And you've got some friends who are just going out every night, and they're like, look, come out with us tonight. We're going to have a great party. We all want you to be there. We love having you around. We miss you, and so on. Going out for that evening is then maybe going to mean drinking alcohol, having bad food, getting home late, not waking up the next morning, and then it's going to sidetrack your goals. Or if someone's like, oh, let's play video games for 5 hours and you need to study, their agenda is very distracting and also very appealing, but you need to have a future-oriented kind of outlook and focus on your goals and say no to these distractions. And then there's other people's projects. So I get emails all the time from people saying, oh, I want to work on this thing. Do you want to like collaborate on it? Do you want to get involved in this thing? Or can we work together on this project? And all of those things will sidetrack me from my goals. So I almost always just say no to any kind of collaboration or a new project, as exciting as they seem. And there's some way you think, wow, that would be so cool. I would love to do that. But doing those things means kind of sacrificing my current goals and getting sidetracked, which probably means never kind of achieving the things I want to do. Important thing to remember is, does this activity equal output? Output. So remember, output over input. The question is, does the input cause output? And this is output meaning progression towards your goals. So if the thing that you're deciding to do doesn't actually make you any progress towards your goals, it's probably just a distraction, and you need to focus on those inputs that you decided would make you progress towards your goals. So the overall takeaway from this is to use your time and energy for productive activities. So you're trying to do the inputs that you do, the time and energy and effort that you're putting in, you want that to result in progress towards your goals. You want to minimize the time and energy and inputs that you do that don't progress you towards your goals. Because these resources, time, energy, effort, focus, discipline, money, all these resources that you have, they're limited. Nobody kind of has unlimited resources that they can use. So you need to protect those resources and use them for productive activities. Okay, that's my system, but there's some general principles. And these are some important principles that I've found make a big difference when it comes to actually being productive. So these are principles that help you implement the system, really. The first principle is that less is more. So what do I mean by this? Less goals. You can't do all the goals you want at the same time. So one way people say this is you can do anything you want to do, but you can't do everything you want to do. So prioritizing and focusing on specific goals is very, very important in terms of being productive and making progress. If you try and take on 50 goals at the same time, which I've done many times before, and I'm probably at my very limit of how many goals I've taken on right now, ultimately you will fall off the bandwagon and achieve none of them. The more focused you can be and targeted on one specific goal, the more likely you are to achieve it. So when I was doing my medical school finals, I cut out pretty much everything else, like really reduced how much exercise I was doing, really cut down on any kind of minimal levels of kind of cooking, cleaning, all that kind of stuff, cut out a lot of my socializing, and really focused on no other goals or nothing else except from getting through those final exams, because I really wanted to score well and graduate with honors. When I was doing this medicine book, I was doing a GP training at the same time. So I was doing the bare minimum I needed to do to get through GP training and focusing completely on that book. I wasn't pursuing other goals at the same time. In the future, you may have more time, more energy, more resources, and you can focus on more goals. But especially when you start out, if you're not used to being particularly productive and you're not so confident that you can implement these strategies, try and focus on one goal, and that might even be a small goal. So really start small, and then you can build up your capacity for achieving goals over time. You also want less activities. So the more things you have to tick off throughout the day, the less likely you are to tick off the important stuff. And you want those activities to be really well defined. So I know that I wake up in the morning, all I have to do is kind of get stuff together, go to the coffee shop and work on those goals. And so I don't have this huge tick box list of things I have to do in order to get started on the thing that progresses my goal to get to my goal forwards. And it's important also to mention that each goal will have overheads. So if I take on a new goal, not only do I have to do those activities that progress me towards the goal, but I have all these overheads that I have to look after. So for example, with this YouTube channel, I have to make videos every day, but I also have the overheads of kind of comments coming in, replying to the comments, keeping track of the numbers, doing the thumbnails, uploading the video. So that actually takes quite a long time just to put it on YouTube. Any kind of extra, visuals that I need to do, any emails that come in as a result. I have all of those to do on top of just making the videos. So there's quite a lot of overheads. And then on top of that, from all the zero to final stuff, I have all these overheads with accounting, overheads with emails, flashcards not being delivered properly, whatever it is. And I need to, sort all of those things out. They're all overheads that distract me from my goals. So the less you can have, less goals you have, less things you're doing, the less overheads you have, so you can really focus on the important stuff. And again, I want to stress this idea that being busy is not the same as being productive. And remember that formula for productivity is outputs divided by input. And if you're really busy, let's say you have just so many things going on that your inputs throughout the day, you wake up and the whole way through the day, you're doing nothing but working. And I mean working as in cooking, cleaning, tidying the house, looking after kids, washing, all these things, plus admin, doing 100,000 emails, scrolling on social media, keeping up with the news, doing all these inputs. There could be 100 inputs, and you only find 10 minutes to work on your goal towards, to making progression towards your goal. Then your productivity is 0.01. So you're really unproductive that way. Whereas let's say you don't do any inputs, you literally just lie around all day and you're completely useless in terms of doing stuff. You're extremely unbusy. But then you manage to, so let's say you only find like half an hour to really focus on studying, but your study technique is so good that your output is 2 from your studying in terms of how much you learn, progressing you towards your exams. You're then as productive as 4. So you're actually more productive towards your goals than this person who is super busy all day long. So less is more. Okay, number two general principle is proactive versus reactive. And what you're aiming for is to be proactive. What does this mean? This means you're in control. So you decide, I am going to do this thing. I'm going to go to the library, sit down and get an hour of work done in this place in my peak time. And that's you're proactively doing that thing. If you wake up in the morning and you check your emails and there's 100 emails, including an urgent one from the university being like, you need to fill in this form, otherwise your elective is cancelled. And so suddenly what you're doing is being reactive. This is you're controlled. And then suddenly you panic and you spend the day on your computer answering emails. You're reactive to the world. And when you do this, sure, you get your admin done and then you might get some other stuff done, but you're not making progress towards your goals. So you're not being productive as we're defining in this talk. The third one is slow and steady. So what do I mean by this? Well, you kind of got a graph, got time here, and this is your aim. So this is kind of like your progress, and this is you now. You may be one of these people, you may be watching this this video at 2 times speed, and you may have trying to do everything really intensely, and when you do a study day, you spend 12 hours in the library studying. So you might have a big jump in progress towards your goal in the first sort of day or week. But then because of this really intense period, you either get overwhelmed by the idea. So a week in, you're getting a bit tired and you wake up and you can't face another 12-hour day of really intense work. So you call that off, and then you get distracted by something else, and then you become intense on something else. And so you never make any progress beyond this area because you went too hard. Whereas the optimal one is to do a little bit, lay that brick every day, but keep doing it over time. And then when you get to the kind of exam day, or whatever it is you want to, whatever kind of time limit you put on it, when you get to the end, in the second example where you're slow and steady, you have actually achieved your goal. In the first example, you've made some progress, but then you kind of burnt out, fizzled out, and you haven't achieved your goal. So slow and steady, but keeping going wins. Number 4. This is a really important one that I have to remind myself all the time. And I tell everybody who asks me for advice about, I want to start something like 0 to Finals, or I want to achieve something. This is the thing I tell them over and over again. And that's to be patient. This is not something that comes naturally to me. I'm a naturally very impatient person. And I always want more to happen quicker and to achieve more goals and be more productive and get more videos out and do more books and do this and that all at the same time. Right now, I really want to get it all done. But the problem is will have limitations. You're limited in terms of you're only human, you're not a machine, you're going to be subject to emotions, you're going to get tired, you have limited energy, you have limited time, you have limited focus, you have limited discipline. You can only kind of stay disciplined for such a long time. You also have other responsibilities. You're also limited by your current ability. So you're not, if you're just starting out trying to be productive, you're not going to be productive of somebody who's been doing that for many, many years. So I can look ahead at some people who run multiple companies and they're sort of in their sort of 40s or 50s or 60s. They've been doing it for so many years. They're incredibly productive, and I feel like I'm just not achieving anything. But we're all at different stages of our journey, and we're all at different stages of abilities. So you need to accept your limitations and be patient. Most meaningful things take time. It takes a long time to achieve big goals. And if you, one of the problems is most people give up. I wonder what proportion or how many people in the world have started writing a book, written like half of the first chapter or first couple of chapters, but never got all the way through the book because they got distracted by something else, or they just got too tired of it or bored or just didn't keep going. So this is you here, and this is your goal. When you first start, you're very excited. You're very motivated. You may have watched a video on YouTube that's got you really pumped up to do the goal. Then you kind of start doing the work and get a bit bored. Then you get distracted. You might have some shiny other goal, but if you manage to avoid that shiny other goal and keep working towards your goal, you'll start getting tired, and then you might get burnt out. But then it's only on the other side of all of these things that you reach the goal. And the only way to get through all this is just to be patient. Don't question, don't over question the strategy. Keep going. When I was like kind of halfway through any of my books, I always got to this point where I think, is this ever going to be done? Will I be able to do it? Is it possible? It doesn't seem like it will ever end. But it's only through being patient, trusting the process, and keeping going that I eventually reach the goal. So the number 5 principle is to maximize the machine. So while I just talked about our limitations and the fact we're not machines, we're humans, and we have all the limitations of humans, our body is kind of a machine. So I think of my body and my brain as being a kind of meat machine that I'm trying to get to do the work and output the productivity. So in order to maximize the machine, we need the machine to be working as well as possible. And I recommend heading over to my video on stress and rest, because balancing stress and rest is the optimal thing for making the machine work well. You need to have periods of stress followed by periods of rest and repeat that cycle over and over again. You don't want chronic stress. That's really bad. It's going to run the machine down, and then the machine is not going to be able to do what you want it to do. Second thing is sleep. I try to sleep 9 hours a day if I can. Sometimes it's 8, sometimes it's less. But the more sleep you get really, really helps the machine to recover, particularly if you're doing anything academic, physical, pretty much anything productive. is going to require you to have lots of sleep. If you're studying, sleep is really when you learn. If you're working out, sleep is really when your body recovers. You desperately need to get enough sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're just not being productive. Next one is nutrition. I need to do a video all about how I beat my 2 p.m. crash, because I went through a period a couple of years ago where I was really crashing at about 2 p.m. And then I'd have 2 hours where I couldn't do anything. I was completely useless. And now I really don't have that crash. And it all comes down to nutrition, avoiding any kind of fast-acting carbohydrates. If I was to eat even like a bowl of rice now, I'd have a crash in, say, an hour's time. So really my nutrition is around very much low glycemic index foods. Instead of having rice or bread or potatoes, I'll have beans, sweet potatoes, and really stick to kind of nuts, things that aren't going to spike my sugar level and then cause a crash. And that helps me massively with productivity. And the final one is exercise. So by exercising, you improve your circulation, the efficiency of your body, the blood flow through everything to your brain, and that massively helps in terms of productivity and being able to do lots of stuff. Exercise, you can go too far, I found, with exercise. If you're an Olympic athlete and you're training for something and your productivity is around exercise, you want to become a CrossFit athlete or a weightlifter or a powerlifter or a bodybuilder or an athlete in some kind of sport, yes, you will need to go hard on the exercise. But suppose your main productivity thing is through something academic, like you're studying or you're making videos or whatever you're doing, you can overdo the exercise, and the intense exercise can fatigue the nervous system and make you less efficient at the other things you're doing. And then the final thing, this is the kind of final point of this video, is looking at long-term productivity. So we've kind of looked at my productivity system, the steps that I go through to build your sort of strategy for making progress towards your goals and tracking your progress. But there's a long-term aspect to this. And if you work on this over time, you will build your productivity. You may look at what I'm doing with my productivity at the moment and think that you want to emulate that. But if you've never been productive to this point, you need to start a bit slower and build your capacity for productivity over time. Similarly, I just simply wouldn't be able to sustain the productivity of people who've been doing it much longer than me. So it's really a case of something you can build up over time. And by going through many cycles of setting goals, sticking with them, achieving them, setting new goals, sticking with them, achieving them, and going through many cycles like that, you get increasingly more productive. And even though I've been trying very hard to be productive for like 20 years, now is definitely the most productive I've ever been in my life, despite maximum effort in the past. And burnt out many times in the past, at times where I was less productive than I am now, whereas now it feels sustainable being more productive than I was when I was burning out. So your productivity does increase over time with practice. It's also exponential, because remember, it's output divided by input. So if you decrease your input and increase your output, let's say you're productive at the moment, your productivity is 1, so your input equals your output, and then you double that to 2, so your input goes down by half. So now your increasing your sort of overall output at twice as fast of a rate, and then you increase it to 3 times and then 4 times, you've got an exponential curve. And this is how much, like, this refers to progress. So your progress increases exponentially as your productivity increases. Remember, you can achieve anything, but not everything. So the purpose of this is to say, pick the thing that you want to achieve in this phase of your life. There'll be many phases of your life. So, for example, I had a phase of medical school, then a phase of foundation training, then a phase of GP training, now a phase post-GP training where I'm really focused on 0 to finals. And so during those phases, I'm really focused on the goals at that time. So at the moment, I'm not focused on any exams. I'm not sitting any exams. I'm not going to do any postgraduate diplomas. During my GP training, I was really focused on that and didn't have the time for 0 to finals as much. And you can't do everything. There's just not enough time and resources. So you need to focus on the thing, pick the thing or the couple of things at most, but ideally one thing that you really want to achieve right now, and you will be able to achieve it. If you try to achieve everything, you'll achieve nothing, which is seems a bit sad to say, but it is true. The only way you can achieve all the things you want in your life is to accept during this period of your life, you're not going to achieve all of these things. Save them for later and focus on the things you can do right now. Another one is 1 year versus 10 years. And this is a principle of, I don't know where I heard this, but I've heard it several times from different people, I think. But people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. So I'm always, at the end of every year, when I do my kind of like New Year's Eve review of the year just gone, I'm always kind of disappointed in what I achieved in the previous year. And my goals for the upcoming year are, to be honest, unrealistic. And I never achieve the goals that I set for the upcoming year. But then when I look back over the past decade, what I've achieved blows my mind and seems completely unreasonable and unrealistic. So 10 years is enough time to really achieve some huge things, but 1 year you'll probably overestimate what you can achieve. So the key to this is progress and trusting the system and keeping going with it and being patient. And then the other one is breaks and phases. So I've had a bunch of phases where I'll go through a phase like foundation training. Then I had a break where I took a year off of training in junior doctor training, did some locum work, did some traveling, relaxed, spent lots of time with my partner, my family, really enjoyed myself. Then I came back really refreshed to hit GP training hard. After GP training, I took some months off, relaxed, very much didn't do any doctor work. Then I got a chilled job as a GP. And so you go through these phases. Then I moved down to Norwich, took some more time off work, did a house up, and took some time off 0 to finals. So very much phases and breaks. And this looks like, for example, when I write a book and finish the book, then I take a break, then I do a book, then I do a break, and I might do flashcards, make them, and then a break, and I might do videos. And so this is a bit like stress and rest, but on a very long time horizon. So it could be like 6 months or 12 months of doing goals and really pursuing goals. And then say 3 months or 6 months of just relaxing, not pursuing goals. And repeating that cycle. Could even be 3 years of intense GP training and then a year off where I'm very relaxed. And by doing this, you can sustain this over the long term. That was a very long video. I hope it was helpful. I just wanted to put out everything that I could think of to help you become more productive. Hopefully, you've picked up some tips and things that you can implement. I'll go into any more of this in way more detail if you want me to. Just leave a comment in the comment section down below. And I'll see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow.